Howdy everybody. Today on the channel I'm going to do an unboxing video, which is something I haven't done before and I'm usually just not a fan of. I haven't bought any large tools in the last couple of years, so that hasn't helped me have a reason to make one of these. But generally I feel like when I watch one, whatever you're learning from the presenter, you could generally just learn by reading the spec sheet on the company's website. I feel like very seldom do you learn anything like useful. And a lot of that I think comes from just like a lack of context. A lot of these channels, I don't follow them religiously. I don't know what kind of work they regularly do. And I also just don't know what they're upgrading from. Like, why was this worth buying? Or did you just get it for free? Anyways, so today in the morning, I went and picked this thing up, that thing. And as you can tell from the title of this video, it's the new Laguna DP20 drill press. I hate, I shouldn't hate strong word, but I try not to be one of the customers that buys like the first generation of a tool once it comes out, or like a car or anything, because I feel like the companies will sometimes use that first batch of customers or like the last round of product development. Like, we're going to be the ones that find any kind of wear and tear issues they didn't anticipate. But I kind of threw caution to the wind, and based on some of the features of this thing, I decided to buy it. Last summer, I almost pulled the trigger on a new drill press. I was kind of splitting hairs endlessly between the Powermatic 2820 and the Nova Voyager. They both have features I was really excited about, but neither of them had all the features I wanted. And once I saw the spec sheet for this thing, it was the closest to the drill press I really want. I'll tell you some of the things I wanted it to have, or some of my reservations about it in a little bit. But I think to start this video, the best thing to do would be to show you actually what I have been working with and why I wanted to upgrade. I've had a little Jet benchtop drill press for about 10 years now, maybe even a little longer. It's this little guy right here. I don't use it maybe as much as I would like to, because it just has a couple really fundamental issues. You know, it's old. I bought it used. It's always suffered from not being quite powerful enough. Like, I can stall it out with like a 3 or 4 inch hole saw. I've got this Makita battery operated drill. I feel like has quite a bit more oomph than this entire drill press, but you know, holding a drill like that by hand, it will kick you pretty hard if you stall it out, while this thing is just not happy with you, but it doesn't hurt you. But the real kind of make or break with this drill press is for a demonstration here, you know, this bit's not spinning, but as you put pressure into whatever you're drilling, if you watch the screen here, the head and the table flex apart, you know, like without too much pressure, at least like 5-6 hundredths. So that lack of precision has just bit me in the ass several times. I had this project where I made this long piano hinge, and after I had like 30 of these pieces in a row, but they were all slightly tweaked over from this flex, it was quite the process to get things just slightly sanded so I could drive essentially the pin through it. That was, anyways, that was basically the breaking point at which I was like totally just over this drill press. And that flex is like catastrophic. I feel like the two fundamentals you need in a drill press is it should have more power and be more accurate than what you can do with your hand. And this thing kind of strikes out at both of them. There are times when it's a lot more efficient. I can set up jigs, so I can drill things repeatedly. But on those two kind of very fundamental things, I haven't had good luck with this. Okay, so really quick, before we do get this thing out of the box here, why did I choose it over the Powermatic and the Nova? You know, I think based on my experiences with the Jet drill press, I knew I wanted variable speed, and I was looking for more quill travel. That one had 4 inches, and all three of these drill presses I was considering have 6 inches. So that was kind of the baseline. The individual features of them though, I feel like this drill press is actually designed like for woodworking, since it's a brand new product, versus the other two were kind of more like generalist drill presses that are then sold to woodworkers. The size of the table on this thing is the biggest out of all three, which is super important to me. You know, as a woodworker, I'm basically 98% of the time drilling either boards or sheets. So having as much side-to-side support just helps to like support things without having to get all cattywampus. The Nova, when I was looking into these, has this auto start feature, which is when you start to lower the quill, it turns the drill press on, and when you return it upright, it turns things off. This Laguna also has that, and that's a feature I'm really excited about. I think often I'll be manipulating some piece or sliding something around on the table, and that will just really help speed things up to just have it turn off automatically, turn back on automatically. And then maybe the last thing that made me excited about this, it has this digital depth display of how far you've drilled. I'm often working with thin stock or lightweight materials, so that I think will just be a lot faster than always having to use a depth stop. You know, I'll know I'm working with a 1/2 inch material, so probably shouldn't drill any deeper than 3/8 of an inch. Having that display, I think, is gonna be super handy. That's not to say, though, there aren't some things about this drill press that aren't what I want. The very basic one is it can only be wired for 110 volt. You can't rewire it for 220. I try to use as much 220 in my shop as possible. All 6 inches of the quill depth are achieved with like 1 pull downwards on the handle. I think this is going to be great, but I actually am I have some reservations about like how precise you can be with that. Will I find that it's just like too fast of an advance downwards? To be decided. And then my biggest hesitation with this thing was actually how you turn it on. It has this touch screen display, and the reality is, like, sometimes you've got dirty hands, sometimes I wear gloves, it's just cold, or I'm working with something kind of abrasive. Sorry, safety police, I'll be wearing my gloves at times, and it will be pretty annoying if I just can't turn this thing on because of the touch screen, because I am wearing gloves. So that's kind of my biggest red flag there. But I think the size of the table, the auto start, and that depth display, for me, I think those will be things that every single time I use this drill press, I'll find really valuable. All right, so let's get this thing out of the back of the truck and get it assembled, and then maybe take it through its paces. In a full disclosure, or really nothing to disclose here, I don't have any partnership with Laguna. I paid full price for this thing. I ordered it through ACME Tools. I actually, incidentally, about 2 months ago, I used a 2001 Laguna bandsaw. But besides that, I haven't owned any Laguna tools before. So not a Laguna fanboy or anything. I just did honestly think that, at least on paper, this seemed like the best drill press to spend my money on. It is the second most expensive tool I've ever purchased behind my table saw. So I did think this was a good purchase to make. And I'll try to be as honest as I can throughout the rest of this unboxing and this initial testing, you could say, of this drill press. So the rest of the unboxing, relatively uneventful. This thing seems really well packaged. There was actually way less assembly than I expected. I mean, you just basically screw on the base plate and then stand it up. So let me just show you a couple of things that I thought were funny or interesting. And then, yeah, we'll enjoy some highlights from Dancing with Tools. Okay, so we're gonna start here. Check this out. Doesn't really mean anything. The box looks like no damage at all, but check out how racked this pallet is. It's like a perfect parallelogram. Thought that was pretty funny. Haven't seen that happen before without some massive damage to the freight. So just kind of a funny little thing, I thought. Chuck the key. And let's see. Anything special about this guy? We can look at it later, but any markings on it at all? Just JT3 5/8 inch. Yeah, so probably in-house made. Nothing special about it. Yeah, I'm not sure if I shouldn't be disappointed. I bet it's got pretty good tolerance. I actually ordered a precision shaft with a 1/1000th Runout, but unfortunately it's not going to show up till tomorrow. So we'll see if it makes it in this video, or if I get too impatient and need to move on with stuff. All right, so the base platform, 37, just over 37.5 pounds, 37 pounds, 9.5 ounces. With a 300-pound tool, I kind of would have thought that this base plate would be heavier, just from like a stability standpoint. So I don't know if I should be disappointed or not, but that's, for anyone curious, that's how much that base piece weighs. The irony of them including hex keys. I mean, is there anybody who is actually buying this tool who doesn't own Allen keys or hex keys? Like, I'm not sure. I always just find this part kind of comical. Maybe those people do exist. How about the money you could save on these hex keys? You could like add a nice cover to the manual, so it's like actually a document you're not going to destroy, or add a binding to it, not just one freaking staple that's going to get torn out. I'm not sure. Maybe there are people who are dishing out thousands of dollars for tools, but haven't yet purchased any Allen keys. But here I am. I guess I'm just using these two instead of digging mine out, so what can I say? And as promised, here's the dance. So here we go. We won't be seeing the back of it again, so in case you're wondering, just the beefiness of the mechanism. Seems very nice, like all the edges seem nicely done. You know, I'm not, sometimes I feel like with some cheap stuff, like even this edge down here, I'm not afraid to really cut my fingers on it. So there's a little shmoo right there. But yeah, I feel like very nicely finished. Doesn't look like I got damaged at all. Table is set. Yeah, very nice so far. Impressed, or don't feel like I've been taken yet. All right, time to get it over to where it's gonna live in the shop and finish setting it up, hopefully. And probably a bunch of annoying cleaning. So after rolling the drill press across the shop to where it's going to live, it was quite a cleaning process. There's quite a bit of that shmoo to basically keep all the cast iron or unpainted metal surfaces from rusting. It is a little annoying, but you just got to do it once, and it's way better than receiving a tool with some rust, so no complaints there. The last part of the assembly was to attach the handles. That was all super easy. I did have a little bit of a problem with the table. The hold down bolt is tight, like super tight, to the point where I ended up needing to hammer it. The way these little set pins or set handles work, I was a little afraid I might shear kind of the teeth on it if I hit it too hard, but thankfully it loosened up and that wasn't an issue, but maybe something you might encounter when you get one of these as well. There we go. What a pain in the ass. So as we're going to see as this video goes on, the chuck and the key are going to leave a little bit to be desired, and that started to become apparent right now. Well, doesn't, in the grand scheme, this doesn't matter. There's some sharp burrs on this. Paint's a little messed up. You can get another one of these cheap, but, you know, as like the piece you're interacting with constantly, it's fine. But they installed just fine, and now I was basically ready to fire this thing up and actually see how it works. At last, here we go. All right, LED. Well, that's nice and bright, pretty good. Laser works as well. That was one of my complaints about the Nova. Doesn't have a laser. I know for actual precision work, can't rely on these super well, but for fast tasks, I do find the laser really handy. I think this one's supposed to be pretty easy to get aligned. It's just got a couple of screws, so I'll deal with that later. Nothing too troubling there. But big moment. Let's hit this thing. Wow, that is slow. 60 RPMs, hot damn. Let's see. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Huh. Not too... Those are some weird sounds. Feels actually quite nice and still. Tiny bit of vibration there. Let's go for the 3. I don't think I've ever drilled that fast in my life. Whoa, it goes further. 3,600. I thought it only went to 3,000. I didn't read enough. That is insane. Yeah. Anyways, a couple weird sounds at the low speeds. All right, so before we actually try to check what the runout is and how square this thing is, let's do a little experiments with this on-off button here. Here's a pair of gloves I kind of like. Can't believe how long they last. These Milwaukees, they're nice and thin. Haha! That worked. Okay, so actually, let's try some leather gloves. Here, we'll just try it through the double glove. Yeah, so it totally has actually, it's not a true touchscreen like a, you know, a phone where it needs, I think, that electrical connection. It's actually just the little pressure sensor behind it. So that actually makes me happy. I bet that means, like, you know, cool. I think, you know, so anyways, that takes away my fear. So that makes me happy. So we've got some other things here. That was the auto start. So I think now, okay, so if you have to have it on and auto start. Anyways, you guys can probably get this from the manual. If you zero it, then it shows you how far down you've gone. All right, so first thing I'd like to do is measure the runout. As I said earlier, that precision shaft delayed in shipping, sort of a rarity from McMaster. But we'll see, we'll try to get it right here. It'd be nice to have, you know, like the runout up here is of course going to be a lot less than the runout down here, but let's see what it does. All right, so we got it set to 60 RPMs, and let's see how she does. Well, right up there, I think we're at about 3 thousandths. That's not super inspiring, given how close that is to the actual chuck. I mean, the top of the actual chuck leaves something to be desired. You can just see that it's got some movement there. Well, let me try to get you. And I'm not talking about this just like texture change if it didn't quite get all the oil off. You can actually see this thing here. Let me put the caliper actually right up against there. You can see this is over 100th or 10 thousandths right there. So, and then you can even see the inconsistency there. Let's grab that guy. So that, even though you can see that little, whoops, let me see. You can see the wobble in that black line. You know, maybe not milled quite right with a little bit of paint there in the middle. This thing is dead on though. Let's adjust just a little bit down to this guy if we can. So that actually seems on the money too. So basically at this portion of the testing, I knew I was just going to wait for that precision shaft. It's just one extra day for it to show up. It would help me just present something a little more conclusive for you guys. But I did decide to split the chuck and the arbor. This way I could test just the arbor. And I was really happy to see that it is actually spot on. So the issue is with this chuck. And we'll turn it on. So yeah, that is right on. So I really do think the problem is that chuck. I mean, that makes me happy, I guess. This way, the problem is this chuck, not the arbor or the rest of the drill press. That, good news on there. I also did a test to kind of test the squareness of the table to the bit, and if that can be returned, you know, dead on after you adjust the table. So to basically be leveled out, the mechanism here is when you loosen this, oh, you got this little pin here that once it's horizontal, quote unquote, it you know, will register through both holes. That said, there's a little bit of rocking, and obviously that goes away when you tighten this, but I don't think there's anything magic going on here, so that, you know, I think there's just going to be some slop, we're about to test that, but I think basically anytime you adjust the angle of this, if you want to make sure it's dead on again, you're gonna have to use a square and like actually check that. That's a big complaint with the Powermatic, is it doesn't have like a 90-degree stop. And this one, I think it's gonna get you pretty close, but depending on what you do, it's not foolproof. So this test seemed to confirm my fear here. Just a couple pounds of pressure on either side of the table, and you can change its alignment. I mean, it's pretty close to zero, but it's not dead on. Yeah, it's sealed up the gap at the top. Yeah, I mean, now the top is totally touching. And I think if I loosen this and put weight, you know, a little bit this way, then it'll close up there. So that's a little freaking annoying. In the long run, I might play around with like trying to set it right at zero when I know it's like biased to the left side of that little play range. But I think you can't just push that pin through, tighten it down, and count on it to be perfectly perpendicular to the bit. After this, I decided it might just be fun to remove the plastic cover, see what's going on inside. All right, and since we can't leave anything well enough alone, I think we're gonna pull this top cover off just to see what's going on underneath. There's an exploded parts diagram, so I don't think this should cause trouble to our warranty or anything. Perhaps we'll find something interesting. I think to pull the motor out, we essentially have to undo this whole thing. Whoops. Find that later. So I'm not AVE. I can't really tell you if this is great or not. It does look nicely made and organized to me. So no complaints there. A couple branded components. Nothing I've ever heard of before. But I think those days are kind of gone, you know, of like, you know, I'm not sure if I had some kind of hopes to like open this up and see some kind of like Leeson or Baldur motor. Clearly, there's more electronics in the back here, including some kind of nice big heat sink. You can't see what kind of motor it is, unfortunately. You can just get a peek of it there. Anyways, maybe we'll put this front cover back on because I kind of got to hold it, and then I'll get a light and a little mirror and try to peek down in there. Oh, wait, there is a label. Made in Taiwan. Category number YC676. Volts 166 volts DC. RPM 6,600. Interesting. Looks nicely done. Anyways, I think that's all about all I can say. Some massive pulleys, very nice machine pulleys, I think. And yeah, I mean, this whole thing is one casting. That's pretty cool. That is a beefy part. So that's pretty cool to see. Big metal plate. All right, let's put it back together. So the last thing I did before calling it a night is actually test for what plagued my old drill press, which is basically the head and the table, you know, splitting apart. And the results from that were great. This will cure that problem I had with my old drill press. Oh, that's pretty good. Like with quite a bit of pressure, 2,000s, I can get up to like 4,000s. Regular pressure, just a tiny bit, thousandths of deflection between the two. So that's a considerable improvement from my other drill press, which was seeing, I'm not sure, 10 times that. Cool. All right, next day here, got my package, and let's get this settled out. I guess what's really going on, how much runout we've got on that chuck. I did forget to mention that the shop is a total crap hole, even by my standards. And that's because I'm kind of going through a revamp, trying to purge some stuff. And right in the middle of that, this drill press did arrive. So I do apologize in case, like, I was watching some of the footage and it's a little overwhelming what's going on back there. But yeah, let's get this figured out. So according to MacMaster, the straightness tolerance is, I think, 1/1000th of an inch per foot. So that's incredible. All right, let's chuck this thing up and get some measurements. For the sake of brevity, everything I'm about to present, I did try swapping the ends of the precision shaft around. I tried rotating it slightly in the chuck, and the results were pretty consistent no matter what I did. So just keep that in mind. I did try to play around with that while doing all of this. Okay, so we'll take it again right at the top here, and then we'll take a measurement at the bottom here. Let me twist this around so the reflection is not as bad. Yeah, so that's interesting. That's actually worse. Let me check the arbor up here. I'm not sure how that would have been affected at all. Yeah, that's dead on right now. That still has a lot of wobble. And then let me just check the very bottom. So yeah, all the way down there, you know, we're seeing about 1/100th of that's pretty disappointing. Like if I turn it up to 42.5, 43, as it comes around, well, up to 52. So I'm a little, I don't know what to think. Like I don't have anything else where I can test something this long. All right, we're at the old drill press. This drill press, remember, suffers from that flex issue. But this chuck I've actually had, I'm not sure, decent luck with. It might actually fit on the other drill press. This is becoming a dumb idea. Anyways, they're both Morse taper. I just don't know if this is a, what is that, Jacobs taper 3? Anyways, I can't actually run this for this runout test because its lowest speed is like 600 RPMs, so it doesn't really respond fast enough. But if I just, up here, I'm spinning it by the pulley. The runout I'm getting at the very bottom of this shaft is about 1,000th, which is what I would expect. So this has really sort of muddied the waters. Like this drill press, I know that even with this runout, the other drill press will in practice be more accurate. This chuck actually has a little wobble to it. I tried to install some, I tried to modify it at one point to get rid of that. But the runout actually seems quite good on this chuck. That's that. I have pretty good faith in this threaded rod now. That basically tells me that that chuck is having issues. Okay, so I think I gotta just like wrap this video up. This whole chuck runout thing, I'm gonna like keep looking at it a little bit. I mean, the honest truth is, for the work I do woodworking, it's fine. It actually, you know, I'm just wasting time now. It's just, you know, when you buy a tool, you're always like, you know, you're hoping for perfection, and it's just a little sad to see the runout that this thing has. You know, it was kind of a low note to end, you know, to chuck up this precision shaft in my old drill press and see that I do believe that the shaft is fine and that this chuck is contributing to that runout we're seeing. But it's a replaceable chuck. I've always wanted a keyless chuck, and perhaps this is a good excuse to buy one. And like, to be fair, you know, looking at the specs for like Jacobs or Lambrick chucks, they're specking 1.6 thousandths. And I actually couldn't figure out if they're measuring that like right up by the jaw or all the way down at the bottom. But perhaps, you know, like those chucks cost like a quarter of what this entire machine costs. So perhaps 3 thousandths is just not unreasonable. You know, maybe that's like where my expectations should have been. And I do think that the machine is great. I know this video will come across kind of negative, kind of like I'm really dwelling on these couple things, but there are a couple things I think just like aren't perfect about it. I do think there's a lot of good things to be said, like the touch screen, my fear about it not working with gloves, it does work. The build overall, I feel like it's a very well-made machine. Thankfully, like some critical component isn't messed up. Things seem to be perfectly aligned. It's just really this chuck that's like kind of brought down this entire experience. Other things, like I had those couple weird sounds right at the very start, that actually went away really fast. And I think maybe things were just settling in. So it's actually sounded great ever since then. I thought I should mention that because I feel like there was a lot of skepticism in what I said at that moment. That skepticism has left me. So if you watch that part, don't be scared there. That's just what my machine did for, you know, the first, I don't know, 30 seconds of running. Things like this single motion to drive this all the way down and the very limited amount of play I've had with it, I'm actually kind of a big fan. So I really do think this machine was well thought out. Couple things are a little lacking in like that very end user experience. If you adjust your table angle a lot in your work, this thing doesn't come right back to 90. So that could be pretty annoying for you. For me, maybe twice a year, I'll play with the table angle for some weird project. So I'm actually not, that doesn't concern me. The only other things that I can really gripe about are, yeah, the key feels cheap. It's kind of a package deal with the chuck. I rewatched some of the footage and they get opened. Came in the same box, so no surprise there. This knob that if you are changing speeds, you're going to be interacting with, it has just a little bit of wiggle. Like I pulled the set screw out and it is just like the little potentiometer head there. It just has some play. Kind of unfortunate. They couldn't have spec'd a slightly different part because again, you want this thing to feel robust. You want it, you know, to feel like a great tool, because I do think it is a great tool, and it is just sad that that thing's got a little wiggle because it's a part you interact with so often. The rest of the hardware though, these handles are all super beefy. Huge fan of this table. Yeah, I'm not regretting spending my money in any ways, and I'm sorry if this video does seem like I'm really coming down hard on the machine. I just think that that's my personality, you know. I'm pretty skeptical. I didn't get paid to make this video, so I'm just kind of trying to share my honest impressions. And I definitely psyched to get this thing dirty in my next couple of projects coming up, really take it through its paces, just sharing kind of my initial impressions. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I realize I talked a lot in this one and maybe didn't really do a whole lot. So hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you.